Speaking of telling the truth, a little shot of truth serum coming up. Eddie Yeranian, longtime veteran CBS Radio News, our man in the Middle East, and also a longtime contributor to the Voice of America, live in Cairo. Eddie Yeranian, good to have you on, man.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me, as always.
Okay, so the president, let's break all this down. So the president yesterday seeking to declare the Muslim Brotherhood, which is technically a political party in the Middle East. They have elected officials that have won elections, including in Egypt once. They won the presidency. He wants to do to them what he did to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and declare them a foreign terrorist organization, and it's a political party. How's this work, and what is his thinking here, do you think?
Well, I'm sure he's spoken to a number of Middle Eastern leaders. He's probably spoken to the Egyptian president who visited Washington a few weeks ago.
Yes.
No doubt he's spoken to the Emirates Crown Prince, to the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. But I think the issue here is not so much the Muslim Brotherhood itself, but the organizations, militias, underground militias, for lack of a better word, that they operate, which carry out terrorist operations. And, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard does a lot of things that are not terrorist-related, but we've singled them out for the terrorist operations they've carried out over the years in various countries. So if you look at the parallel that way, I'd say, yes, it does have a political wing. Some people who are merely political, and it also has an armed wing or several armed wings, and this is, well documented, that carry out acts of terrorism. So I guess that's probably his thinking.
So, you think that's legitimate?
I wasn't sure completely that we should have put the Iranian Revolutionary Guard on the terrorist watch list because it could be counterproductive. This also could be counterproductive. I have terrorist acts. They've been documented to have done that. So I can understand the logic. Would I do it myself? Maybe not. I'm not sure.
The issue is here, and I get where the president is going with this, and I get that, he wants to respond to several leaders, MBZ, UAE, and certainly El-Sisi, Egypt, where you are right now. But, it's the same thing as trying to put Hamas on a terrorist list, although you don't like them. They have elected officials, right, that won democratic elections that are serving in various governments around the Middle East. I don't know how you put a political party on that list. You know what I'm saying? Because, the Muslim Brotherhood has actually elected people in, what you would think are free and open democratic elections. And if the people vote for them, I don't know how you indict all those voters at the same time. I guess that's my question.
Yes, I understand that logic. And once again, I'd say I'm not sure I would necessarily go about it that way. I'm not sure I like the terrorism list that we're running anyway. We've singled out a lot of countries, officials of countries. They're never going to bring down those governments, and they merely show the clout of the American government, which sometimes backfires. Really?
Well, okay. So let's get to Sri Lanka and this attack that's happened. 250 people dead. There's one school of thought that says that the ISIS terrorists are now so weak that they have to look for targets that are basically on far corners of the world and not really defensible. Do you buy into that?
I buy into the argument, and you're not going to hear this anywhere else, that there are countries that are supporting these people. I won't name them. There are a number of them. They've been singled out for other issues. The media doesn't want to name them. And never mind their names. Why does the media always talk about this group and never points a finger at the countries that are doing things?
Mm-hmm.
I've got to say that the Turkish media put pictures in their newspapers before Mr. Erdogan closed some of them down, showing Turkish intelligence supporting the Islamic State group. I'm sure he's not the only one. They're not the only ones. But until you start fingering the countries that are doing this, you're never going to get to the bottom of it, because Abu Bakr Baghdadi is a nobody. It doesn't matter what he says, doesn't matter where he is. These countries are still going to pump this group, and you're never going to get to the bottom of it until you start fingering countries, which is arguably one reason why maybe Mr. Trump is right about this terrorism watch list.
So basically, this puts the countries that are engaging with them, because allegedly you've got various countries in the Middle East that some people say are supporting them, giving them aid. Others say they just deal with them. So I'm not going to get into that, because it's all alleged. But certainly by the president putting them on a watch, right? Those countries that are engaging with them or doing relations with them, whatever you want to call it, puts them at risk, right? Puts them on notice that the U.S. government is very serious. If you're playing footsie with Muslim Brotherhood, you're not going to be in a good place with the U.S. State Department. Is that fair?
Yes, and as with Hezbollah or with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, that's fair, certainly.
Okay, let me read you a text here by William in Virginia Beach. Virginia. William says, the Muslim Brotherhood has infiltrated our government. What does Eddie Yeranian think about that?
Yes, it has. I've seen it myself. I don't want to point to exactly what incidents brought it to my attention, but yes, they're everywhere. A lot of them are pretending to be, people who are liberals, people who have certain political views, and they very rarely say that they belong to the Muslim Brotherhood. Among them, certain officials, I think, but I can't prove it. I don't know that trying to prove it would be very useful at this point. But the thing that irks me is the mainstream media always ignores these signs, ignores the issues when there is a cue to start investigating. So you have to ask yourself why they're sympathetic to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, it's a question that's got to be asked, no question about it. Okay, the leader of ISIS, we're with Edward Yeranian. Edward Yeranian, longtime independent journalist. He's with CBS Radio. He's based in Cairo. He's covered the Middle East and Lebanon and Beirut for a very long time. He's our guy on the John Fredericks Show in the Middle East, and he's also with the Voice of America. Eddie, let's get to the ISIS leader rearing his head in a video, an 18-minute video. Haven't heard from him since 2014, 5-year hiatus. What was the purpose of him putting the video out now?
Well, I think to say that the group is still there, that it still represents a threat, and that you should be worried about us. That being said, I'm not sure who might be manipulating him. I think that if we really wanted to get to the bottom of this, we would have some of our intel people checking the internet to see where that video came from.
Right.
I think perhaps people don't want to know, really.
Right.
If you read the Arab media day in and day out, this man is supposed to have been critically injured on any number of occasions. And
right.
If you look at the video, he looks like he's in fine fettle. So I don't know what to make of it.
All right. Well, looks like you're right. They just put that out there to say that, he still exists. He's still there. They're still a force to be reckoned with. And the president, obviously, this and of course, coinciding with the president want to naming the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. How does that work? I mean, does that have to go like what? Since he did that yesterday, what has been the reaction of the typical Arab press in the Middle East? What's been the reaction to that?
Well, here in Egypt, clearly the government is pleased by that.
Right.
So clearly the government media would be reflecting that and is saying good things about it. On the internet, on Twitter, and if you look at the people who support the Muslim Brotherhood group, they're upset. I don't know what the word you want to use, but they're also, the Muslim Brotherhood is under a lot of pressure because their remaining stronghold in Libya, in Tripoli, is under assault by General Haftar, the military commander. And I think a lot of Muslim Brotherhood people were thinking they could resurrect their organization across North Africa using Libya as a springboard. Perhaps they're not going to be able to do it now.
All right. I don't think they are either, but it's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds, especially with some U.S. allies in the Middle East that take a different approach to the Muslim Brotherhood. And I think my take on this is the president wants to put pressure on them to abandon the relationships they have. That's my take. Edward Yeranian, thanks for being with us, buddy. Live in Cairo, John Fredericks Radio Network. Thank you, Edward. Always enjoy having you on.
My pleasure, John.